What's up guys, Quinn here. Welcome back to another video. So we're approaching the holidays and I got my classroom looking festive and my aquarium's looking nice. So I thought it'd be a good time to give you guys a classroom tour of all my aquariums. I have made some changes since the last time you guys saw me, so I'm excited to highlight those in this video. So let's dive right in. All right, so as you walk into my classroom, here are my four main show aquariums. These are my biggest aquariums and definitely the crowd favorites with my students. And then if you look towards the back wall here, I have two more aquariums. These are not as set up nicely as the other ones, but they still are pretty cool tanks. We'll get into the specifics of those. I did have a saltwater tank here and we'll talk about what happened with that. All right, so starting off with the 110-gallon aquarium here. This is my biggest aquarium and it is a custom aquarium built by the company out in Wisconsin. If you don't know about them, I highly recommend this company. I think they make the highest quality aquariums on the market. I have ultra clear glass here. It is pretty thick glass as well that is super reliable, and you're not really worried about the seals breaking and these because they do really good work over there. This aquarium has made a big change. I did have to swap the original inhabitants in this and put them in my 75-gallon, which we'll talk about, and then the 75-gallon inhabitants are now in the 110. So I'm really happy with this change because the three cichlids that I threw in here are really colored up and seem to be doing much better with the open space. So starting off with the smaller Jack Dempsey here, this guy is still really colored up in the pale substrate, which makes me happy because Jack Dempseys tend to color down a lot with paler substrate, but this guy is definitely a showstopper and I love the color on him. We also have a firemouth cichlid in here. The firemouth is super aggressive, but as you can see, the color kind of makes it worth it. And like the Severum in here, he is a mouth brooding Severum with bright red eyes, which is awesome. This guy is going to get a lot bigger now that he's in a bigger tank. So I'm super excited about that. And then you have these funny silver dollars here that are meant to just kind of be dither fish and break up some of the aggression. Unfortunately, they're not really swimming up at the top right now. I think they're still trying to get used to the new inhabitants. All right, so as for the new inhabitants in the 75-gallon, the original Jack Dempsey, my biggest fish, he was really colored down in the 110-gallon ever since the Green Terror unfortunately passed away. Along with the convict with him was also colored down. They're pretty old fish. The convict's probably approaching about 6 years. The Jack Dempsey's probably approaching about 6 or 7 years. So I thought they were better suited for the 75-gallon. They were actually originally in this tank with the Salvini, the Green Terror, and even some giant Danios. So this tank, I'm kind of thinking is more of like a retirement tank for Jack and the convict. I love how he's already super colored up. All the different blues and the maroon color that the dark substrate brings out. It really makes the Jack Dempseys look sharp. And then the convict here, he's still not very colored up and is not looking too hot, but at least they can kind of live out their final years, hopefully, in peace in this tank. All right, so now moving on to the 75-gallon tank. This is my first African cichlid tank. As you can see, I got some assorted Mbuna in here with the dark substrate and the dragonstone scape. I have a bunch of yellow labs in here. I have some acai. Where are the acai? There, the acai. And the Johanni. So I love the activity of this tank. I think it really breaks up the room of some of my more docile Central and South American cichlids. The bright yellow colors mixed with the blues and the dark substrate I really like as well. I'm really excited for when these fish get a lot bigger because this tank's really gonna fill out. All right, so next up we have the 90-gallon yellow jacket cichlid tank. So you can see I dropped a little bit of food in there just now. This guy has grown a lot since we first got him this summer, and he's got this whole tank to himself, so hopefully he's gonna get pretty big. I love the coloration on this guy already. And then the natural substrate here really kind of gives that riverbed look that these cichlids are naturally found in the wild. You can see even the teeth on these guys are pretty aggressive. So these cichlids are typically recommended to keep alone in a large tank because they get big and they're super aggressive. This is kind of like my monster tank, as I like to call it. All right, now moving over to the other side of the classroom, where this side of the classroom is kind of in flux, where I've not decided on final plans for how I want to design this side. The two tanks that are currently running are a little bit more like temporary tanks, so I can really decide. So we'll start off over here by my desk, which is the 55 gallon that has one of my bigger fish. This is Felix. Felix is a short-bodied flowerhorn. I've had her for about 3 years. I originally had her in the 29 gallon, but as you can see, she grew pretty big, and that's why she now has the 55 gallon tank. I'm not a huge fan of the bare substrate. Like I said, I don't see a long-term fit with Felix in my classroom. She is a crowd favorite with my students, so my plan is to hopefully find a willing student to take her in and even take the 55 gallon with them, and hopefully grow the hobby through one of those students. Like I said, students do really like her. She's super thick, as you can see, and she loves to eat. So moving on to the final aquarium here, it's my smallest aquarium, and that is the 29 gallon community tank. So these fish in here are kind of all from different tanks. I did have a 60 gallon planet aquarium in my previous apartment, where I did have these Odessa barbs, which I still love. I love the coloration on the Odessas. And then the Harlequin rasboras that were also in that tank, and actually originally in one of Troy's aquariums before he did not have a place to keep them, so I ended up taking them in. And then some of the leftover neons that were also in my 60 gallon aquarium. I do also have some Amano shrimp in here. They are pretty big and they multiply like crazy, but as you can see, they keep this log very clean of algae. I actually inherited this tank, that's why the background is still kind of messed up. It's kind of a temporary tank. Like I said, I have future ideas that I want to put on this side of the classroom that will look a little bit more like what we got over here. So, future plans for the classroom. As I said, I do want to change out most of the aquariums on the back wall of my classroom. And I do have a lot of space back there that I can put some pretty cool projects up there. One that I'm already thinking about is, if you recall from this past summer when we set up the Mbuna and Yellow Jacket tank, the 90 gallon aquarium that we had originally put the Mbuna in that had that leak. I still have that aquarium, and I want to look into trying to repair the seal in that and hopefully get that aquarium up and running. So if we can get a 90 gallon aquarium back to that back wall, and really the possibilities could be endless. My goal is to have about 6 or 7 show quality tanks that really kind of make my classroom look kind of like a professional aquarium. I know in Chicago we had the Shed Aquarium, and I want my students every single day when they come in here to be able to marvel at all of the interesting biotopes and the fish from kind of all over the world. As you know, we love cichlids, so we'll probably stay with that type of fish. But trying to get as many exotic type of tanks in here is definitely a big goal of mine. But that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.